you're calling for, an assembly to change the way the Constitution is orchestrated so that we, the people, can propose laws.
Right. And that's it. You hit the nail on the head. First, they have to understand, the people have to understand that they can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Once they understand that they can do this, then they just got to go do it, which means that a group of volunteers, creating Philadelphia 2, they conduct an election. Now, this is not an easy task.
Right.
We're talking about a cost of an election that would equal the cost of a presidential election. We're talking probably $1 billion that it would take to properly organize and conduct a national election where people would be able to vote and be guaranteed through transparency what their vote is doing and how it operates. And that's where the results come about. That once the people understand it, then vote, then they have created, and the book is the manual, as it says in the back, is a manual to create and operate a people's legislature. That's what they can do. Now, the elites aren't going to do it. Representatives aren't going to do it because it dilutes their power. Now, once we empower the people, then they become the senior partners in this association. And that's what needs to take place, is the people have to. Now, the reason why not only is there an amendment to this of the Constitution, but there is a federal law, and that law is the Legislative Procedures Act. If we just passed the constitutional amendment, empowering the people to make laws, we would have anarchy. It wouldn't work. What they have to have, along with the definition of powers in the constitutional amendment, they have to have procedures to properly deliberate on legislative proposals the way the members of any legislative body has. And of course, we put in procedures far superior to anything that Congress could even think of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't just have people randomly just publishing blogs like, well, that's my law. You got to follow it now. Well, no, wait, I just posted another one. You violated. I made a law that everyone has to give me $5 on Thursday. If you broke it, you're going to jail.
You're so right. we have what we have in the manual. We have these procedures here. To introduce a piece of legislation, you and I, we want to introduce term limits. So what we do is we have to go to the Legislative Procedures Act sets up a trust, a citizens trust, who will manage the procedures on our behalf. So we call up the trust and say, look, we want to do a term limitation on various aspects of the government. They'll say, okay, well, we'll give you an attorney paid for by the trust, which is paid for by tax dollars. And that attorney will review your proposal, will draft it, make sure that it's constitutional, and then we'll give it back to you for your approval. Okay, so now right there is right at the get-go, you have the determination by legal scholars as to the efficacy of your proposal.
Mm-hmm.
So now after that is done and we approve it, then you and I have to go out and find a pollster that will submit a plan to the trust. It has to be approved ahead of time with who will be polled, how it will be polled, and how it will be counted. And so once that poll goes forward, it has to have at least 40% of the people of that constituency. If it's a state, it's the federal or local, 40% have to agree that they want to proceed with that legislative process, the deliberations. So 40% in a poll have to agree to go forward. So once that happens, now it goes back to the legislative, to the trust, the citizens trust, And they begin, one, to hold hearings, to have markups, to bring in experts, to publish a website at the beginning for each and every legislative proposal, where everything that affects that proposal, whether it's the hearings, it's the markups, anything else, is totally visible to the citizens of the constituency in question. So you have literally total integrity and transparency right from the get-go in the legislative process. Then after the process, whoops, I'm sure you can.
Is that your ringtone?
Hang on 1 second.
Okay. No worries.
Hello. Hello.
Are they inviting you to the debates? Are they?
No, they were.
What's that?
The VA invited me to a webinar, and I'm not up to that.
Oh, okay. Here I thought they were going to invite you virtually to participate with Joe and Donald. I'm on your team.
I'm a little too controversial for an expose. But okay, so now we're processing the legislation by setting up a website, by holding hearings, by holding markups where people can go in and bring in additional experts and then sort of deliberate like a subcommittee or a committee of the Congress. And then after that, that whole process, that information is sent to the legislative body that governs, like if it's a national legislation, it's sent to the Congress. And the Congress has to take this information that we've produced, and they have to have an advisory vote within 90 days. And after the advisory vote has been scheduled, well, then what we do is we schedule the election. Mm-hmm. The election now is going to be held over a week's period, 24 hours a day for 1 week. And with the technology, you can vote for anywhere in the world on a federal issue, on a state issue, and on a local issue.
Mm-hmm. Now, and it's going on for a week because unlike the way our government works now, we actually want people to participate in this.
That's right.
We want people to do
Not only that, they can only vote on 52 federal issues in a year, 52 state and 52. Now compare that to the thousands of legislative items that are introduced in the Congress every year. So here now you have another limitation. You have a limitation of 40%, then you get a limitation that people can vote for. The fact that they can vote for a week in length means that you limit the amount of issues that can be taken up. And that's purposeful because you can't have a legislature of the people where millions of people could be voting and have the ability to have millions of legislative proposals before them. That would make no sense at all. So the Legislative Procedures Act, which took this whole process took more than 25 years to put together. And so in that process, we now have a system that it's not infallible. It's put together by human beings, but it's so far superior to anything any legislative body has in the world today. And that's what this would have, a legislature of the people. And once it's done in the United States, it'll go around the world like wildfire. And there's no reason why you couldn't have a global legislature of the people where millions and millions of people could vote. There's no limitation to how this works. It's structured in such a way that you could have all of Europe voting on a piece of legislation rather than pell-mell through the EU. And that's what's so interesting in reading the book, is to analyze how this could apply and how these individual things in the manual are there not by accident, but as a result of thoughtful deliberation and vetting and agreement. That's the dynamic of what's involved in a legislature of the people. And this legislature of the people will put to shame any representative legislature anywhere in the world.
So, where can people go to get this book? Should they just go to the Institute?
Well, right